can you touch on not waiting for inspiration to strike and just getting after it? Some more creative blocks are obviously a universal issue for producers. Yes. So recently I've started doing just opening Ableton every day. I know it's a lot easier when you're just starting out because it's exciting, but if you're doing it as long as we are, sometimes opening up Ableton is a chore. Because the idea is that we have pressure now. We have
just force quit.
Hang on, just give us a second here. Let me just force quit this.
Yeah, so what Morgan was saying, basically, I mean, Kanye said this as well, 5 beats a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just opening Ableton and getting something done, even like a lot of the greatest, some of the best stuff I've written in the past little while happened just because I was like, okay, I'll open it up and just grind for a couple of hours. And a lot of the time, you feel like you're pushing up against a wall and you're not getting anything out. And that's fine. But then the next session, you might start with that rubbish that you came up with the session before, and that might lead you to what ends up becoming the song. And you wouldn't have got there if you didn't do the rubbish first. You couldn't have just skipped the step. So I had a track last week, which I worked on, which I came into the studio, sat here I just only had a little bit of time, came in for 2 hours and kind of wrote out an idea, and it wasn't very good. And I went home thinking, oh, well, I got an idea, but it wasn't great. And then that next afternoon, I forced myself another 2 hours, and I took that bad idea, and just one little idea came out, and I ran with it, and then that ended up becoming basically a full song, which me and Morgs worked on this week. So yeah, what I think, just forcing yourself to do it, you have to put in the bad hours to get the good hours out.
Yeah, it's again, like I said, with people starting out, the idea that you want to sit down and finish a song and be such a perfectionist is hardly conducive for your brain to start with, because our brain needs momentum. You can't just present, if I were to ask you to sit down and write a song now under pressure, that is just simply not going to happen. But if I just told you to sit down and doodle, that's when the ideas start coming out, and you may have to force the doodling.
It's a funny word.
Yeah, it's a great word.
On the flip side of that, though,
look at that.
Something to remember is there is a lot of pressure, and you see a lot of stuff online about producers being like, I do 9 hours a day in the studio, and I grind, I work hard, I put in the time, and I work hard and get it out. I would say that your brain can only really focus for a certain number of hours a day.
I'd say if you're a professional at intense work, 4 hours.
Yeah, so if you're proper music writing, 4 hours. Like after this session where we talk about this, we plan our days, we're going to do probably 3 hours of writing music, and then we're going to go home and we're going to exercise and we're going to meditate and do other stuff that sort of takes our mind off it, because we also recently started taking Sundays off and not try and just, well, me personally at least, I don't do any music stuff on Sunday, because you need time for your brain to defrag, and as long as you're sticking to your routine of doing studio on the other days and working, sometimes you find that if you try and work every day, you end up feeling like you're trying to be productive, but you're not actually being productive and getting anything done. It's actually better to work hard for 5 or 6 days a week for 4 or 5 hours on each of those days, and then take time off, than it is to sort of just piss around your time for 10 hours a day every day of the week. And I've found, at least these last 2-3 weeks that we've been doing that since we got this studio properly set up, has been very productive. And we've finished 2-3 songs, whereas before it would take a long time to do that. Yeah. So I think making sure that you're productive in the times when you're trying to be productive, and relaxing, really resting, and fully taking your mind off it in allocated times for that. You don't have to put in 10 hours a day every day for a year to become a successful musician.
Yeah.